Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am the ACCA tutor. I'm here to take you through the ACCA MA1 and MA2 hybrid class, where we'll be talking about the absorption costing, and it is our week 11 for those taking the hybrid class. Okay. In this week's lecture, like I said, we'll be tackling the issues to do with absorption costing among other issues. Okay, and the purpose of this video is to take students through the process of absorption costing. All right, and it's nitty-gritties. All right, and at this level I'm sure you're not comfortable with these principles, because there are two major principles which we have to worry about. The first one was marginal costing. Okay, and you still remember that when we deal with marginal costing, we'll be only concerned with variable costs. However, when we talk of absorption costing, we are worried about one more thing on top of variable cost, that is fixed cost of production. Okay, and I'm sure you still remember the issue of the unit cost card. Okay, let me just give a recap of the unit cost card. Okay, just a minute. Still remember. Good. The unit cost card. If you still remember, where we said that it involves variable costs, which include direct labor, okay, direct materials, and direct expenses. Okay, it also includes things to do with usually fixed costs of production, like overheads. Okay, production overheads. All right, and if you still remember, the total of these direct costs are what are called prime costs. Okay, the total, that's prime cost. Okay, and we add fixed cost and we get the total cost of, if we add them up, we get what is called total cost. And it is this total cost that is the backbone of absorption costing. Okay, and I like this equation. Total costing, or total cost of a product, is equal to variable cost per unit plus fixed cost per unit, and this is the same information we are talking about. Okay, so what is absorption costing in general? It is a costing method where we are sharing overheads, okay, production overheads of a product. Okay, we are sharing these overheads. The process of sharing these overheads, especially, okay, these overheads among various products or services in a company or in a factory. Okay, we have to apportion these overheads, okay, or sharing. Let me just use the word sharing, because if we say apportion, it means something else. Okay, so the method of sharing overheads among different products or services in a firm, all right, that's absorption costing. It's just a method of sharing, because we have to have a systematic way of doing things. Okay, so that's in a systematic way. It's not a matter of just sharing things, but in a systematic way. that is in on a fair basis. Should be fair. The basis should be fair. Remember the principle of responsibility senders. Responsibility sender. The responsibility sender approach, where we talked about there's no point in blaming a manager for things he is not responsible for. Okay, so this is where we end up having things like investment sender, profit sender, and cost sender. Okay, cost sender. All right. Well, we say that these managers are assessed based on what their sender is responsible for. Okay. At a cost sender, okay, at a cost sender, you must not bother this guy on why the entity is indulging in loss-making investments, because that's the responsibility of the investment sender manager. When we are talking of a cost center manager, this guy is only responsible for incurring costs. Okay, so that's something like that. So that is why we end up having to have a sharing approach which is based on fairness. There should be some fairness in doing the sharing of costs. Okay, but you need to understand that absorption costing involves three stages or 3 steps. Stages in absorption costing. We have one. We start by allocation of the cost. Then we go to apportionment. These are they always come in every exam, so you have to know what they are, and then we end up with absorption. Okay, what is allocation? Allocation, we are referring to the instance where, let me just, okay, allocation is when the whole cost is allocated to a particular cost center or to a particular department. For example, production department A or production section A, production section B is given the whole cost. Okay, and then when we are talking of apportionment, we are saying that this is the apportioning or the sharing of overheads, which are indirect costs. Okay, indirect costs, which usually, maybe, let's say for example, when we are talking of rental expense, okay, the rental expense should be shared between the production centers. Okay, the production centers A, centers B, centers, they should share the rental expense. Not one production center should be having or should be allocated the rental expense. But when you're talking of allocating, we're saying the whole expense is being allocated to, for example, employees in production department A should be charged to production department A. That's allocating. We are allocating. But when you are apportioning, these are indirect costs. Okay, they are not directly attributed or traced to a particular department. They need to be shared on a fair basis. Then after that, we do what is called absorption, or absorbing the costs. When we are absorbing, think of, we are then budgeting the costs. Okay, after apportioning them, we then have to budget for them, or then have to consider them to a particular unit or product. Are we together? Are we together? So by absorbing, we are now referring the particular, or identify the cost or apportion the cost to particular cost units. You understand it with an example. I think we need to go to slide page page 22. Let us just go to page 22 to understand what we are talking about. Okay, understand what we are talking about. What if I put it here? No, it can't. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are having this question. Okay, Calco incurred the following overhead costs. And it's an example on the basis of apportionment. Like I said, we need to have a fair basis of apportioning these overheads. All right. Depreciation of factory, 1,000 bucks. Factory repairs and maintenance, 600 bucks. Okay. Insurance of equipment, 200. Heating, lighting, and they all give us total overhead cost of 2,200. Information relating to the production and sales cost centers in the factory is as follows: production cost centers, sales cost centers. Okay. Production A, production B, sales center X, sales center Y. Then we are given information relating to these cost centers, production costs and sales cost centers. Okay, in the factory, and then we're told that floor space in square meters is 1,200, 1,600, 800, 400 respectively. Volume in cubic meters, 3,000, 6,000, 2,400, 1,600. Book value of equipment, that's those figures. Then on what basis should the overhead costs be apportioned between the four cost centers? Then how much overhead would be apportioned to each cost center? Okay, the first thing we have to know here, or we have to worry about, is on what basis shall we apportion depreciation of factory equipment? Or let's say the depreciation of the factory building itself. Let's consider this one a building. Okay, let's worry about factory building. Okay, let us just consider it as a building. Okay. All right. Depreciation of factory. Obviously, the fair basis there should be floor space. Okay. But even if it's the equipment inside, okay, but usually equipment might tend up to confuse us, so let us just consider it as a building. Okay, so the floor space is actually a fair basis. Okay, it's a bit fair. All right, and then factory repairs and maintenance. Factory repairs and maintenance. What do you think is the fair basis? Can we use the volume? Can we use the book value of the equipment? For factory repairs, I think again this should also be floor space. So floor space or area, floor space. Also here, the floor space. Okay, why am I saying the floor space? All right, this one, even if the equipment itself doesn't matter, building or equipment doesn't matter. I mean, the assumption is these manufacturing companies, they do not have spaces to waste. Okay, so usually their factories will be full of machines, production machines. Okay, so when we worry about how to allocate the factory repairs and maintenance expense, we just have to worry about, we consider the factory space occupied, okay, or the floor space occupied by these machines as a better basis to allocate these maintenance costs. However, it is not hard and fast. It is not hard and fast, and what you have to do is just to tell the examiners. But sometimes they want some logic facts, some logic way of reasoning. All right, what about the insurance of the equipment? Here I suggest the book value, of the equipment, the book value of equipment. Okay, there are some some assets which are very obvious when some expenses or overheads which are very obvious, but sometimes some are not obvious, and you just have to use your judgment. Okay, some reasoning. Like for example, sometimes you discover that heating and lighting, these ones, the heating and lighting might be on floor space basis, or even the volume. Okay, like here, let us just use the volume for the heating and volume, and then here we can use the floor space. But for heating, just for interest sake, we can use the volume in cubic meters. Okay, that's the basis. And sometimes the examiner would say, why are you using that? And you just have to explain and justify the reasoning. Okay, justify the why you do that. Okay, fine, let's move because you do not have more time. All right, so we have answered on what basis should the overhead be apportioned between the four cost centers, and this is actually the basis which we have done. But we do not answer the other part, how much overhead would be apportioned to each cost center, which is a very, 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 very cunning and tricky bit of the question, the tricky bit. But let us go through it. Okay, this is the reason why we are here. Okay, so I need, I think, enough space to do the working. Okay, so we need to come up with a bit of some working. Okay, let's start with factory. Let's start with factory. This pen color is not that clear. Factory depreciation. Okay, the factory depreciation. Okay, we start with the total floor space, because we say that depreciation should be apportioned on the basis of the floor space, as we have done here. Okay, we are now being led with this one. We say that depreciation of the factory should be apportioned on the basis of floor space. So let us calculate the total floor space we have. What is the total? You've got okay, we have got this is the floor space. Okay, this is the floor space, as you can see. So let us do with our calculator. That's 1200 plus 16,000 plus 800 plus 800 plus 400. So That's 4,000. Okay, so the total space we have, total factory space 4,000. Total factory space 4,000 square meters. Now we now know, okay, but in the exam it is encouraged that you just have to write those numbers down so that you won't confuse yourself, okay, because there won't be enough time. So that's 1,200 plus 1,600. That's 1,200 plus 1,600 plus 1 plus 800 plus 400 to give you 4,000 square meters, because it's very essential. Now to allocate, to apportion to production department, to production cost center A, what we do is to apportion depreciation costs or depreciation overhead to production. You can just say here now apportionment, so that you won't be confused. Now apportionment colon, then production costs center A. We say that because this was 1,200 was for A, 1,600 was for B, C. Is there a C or is it a safe sender, or X, Y? Okay, those are now safe senders. So X and Y. So to apportion production, depreciation to production cost center A, we say that 1,200 over 4,000 plus, multiply by what was the total depreciation charge. Okay, what was the depreciation charge according to the question? We are saying that the depreciation overhead was 1,000. So because we want to apportion this 1,000 among these production centers and sales cost centers. Okay, so we want to share it among these guys. Okay, among the production, production center A, production cost center B, sales cost center X, sales cost center Y. We want to apportion to share this 1,000. Okay, so how do we share it? We use the factory space as we have calculated here, and we found that the total space was 4,000. So for A's share should be 1,200 over 4,000, as you can see, multiplied by the $1,000, and $1,000 was the total depreciation. Okay, so if you do your mathematics, 12 over 40, what is 12 over 40, or 14 to 1,000? What is that? You can use your calculator, because in the exam you don't have the whole day of doing things. So we are saying that 12 multiplied by 1,000, 12,000 over 40. So you can see that depreciation there should be, for production center cost center A, should be $300. Okay, $300. Can put a dollar sign here. You go to production center, production cost center B. That's 1,600 over 4,000 multiplied by 1,000. And if you use your calculator to make your job easier, 1,600 multiplied by 1,000, you get that one divided by 4,000. You get 400. You go to sales cost center X, and from the figures we have here, that's 800 divided by 4,000. Multiply by 1,000. This is a 1000. Hey, don't be confused. Multiply by 1000, that's 800 divided by 4000, multiply by 1000, that's 200. Then lastly, sales cost center, Yankee Y, that's how much was it? 400 over 4,000. 400 over 4,000 multiply by 1,000 bucks. We get obviously 100 bucks. You can cross check. Ta and 40 into 1,000, that's almost 25, isn't it? Okay, 1,000 divided by 40, 25 multiplied by 4, that's 100. 100. So this is the way depreciation should be apportioned. You go to the next one, and what's the next? Let's now apportion volume. Factory repairs and maintenance, and the total charge is 600. Okay, the total charge 600. Factory repairs and maintenance. But before you do that, you just have to find the basis, and we say that the basis is floor space. If you had chosen another basis, like for example book value of equipment, you then have to use the book value of equipment. But like I said, it should be a fair base. Okay, it should be a fair basis. Okay, so and we have discovered that factory repairs and maintenance should, be judged based on the floor space. So we are going to use the floor space. Okay, and the floor space is this one that we've calculated these ones already, and the total floor space, we found out that it was 4,000. And so factory repairs and maintenance, let us apportion those ones. Factory repairs and maintenance. Okay, it's very simple. Okay, so for production cost center, A, we said that was 1,200 over 4,000 multiplied by 600. I'm sure you know this is 1,200 I'm talking about, and the 600 we are referring to is this one. Okay, then you determine with your calculator there the value there. You go to production cost center B, you get 1,600 over 4,000 multiplied by 600. 600. You get the amount. Then sales center, sales cost center X, that's 800 over 4,000 multiplied by 600. Then sales cost center, Yankee Y, that's 400 over 4,000 multiplied by 600, and you get these figures, and those are the figures apportioned to a particular cost center, or these which have been shared to the cost centers. All right, so you do the same, but what you have to do is to know what basis is being applied. Okay, we are now applying for the, let's say you want to find the apportionment for insurance of equipment. to apportion this 200 among these cost centers, you have to know the basis of apportionment. For insurance, the basis was the book value of equipment. So you go to the book value of equipment, which is this one, and you add this one and this one and this one and this one. You get the total. Then you start to apportion 3,000 over the total, multiplied by 200, by 200, and you get the same. So let's move on to the other aspect. Overhead apportionment. Okay, we have to okay. The second stage of production overhead apportionment concerns the treatment of service costs. All right. Service cost centers might include stores and or canteens. Stores or the canteen. Okay, these are service cost centers. All right. So by the end of the day, we need to take the costs which have been sustained by these service cost centers, into our production. Only the production cost centers are directly involved in the manufacture of the units. In order to be able to add production overheads to unit costs, it is necessary to have all the overheads charged to the production cost centers only. Thus, the next stage in the absorption costing is therefore to apportion the overheads of service cost centers to the production cost centers. This is sometimes called reapportionment. So we have got two methods which we need to consider here. We've got the direct method of reapportionment and the step down method. All right. Sometimes you have to lead yourself to use the direct method or the step down method. Okay, but at this level, usually the examiner will tell you which method to use. All right. So let's start with the direct method of reapportionment. Direct method of reapportionment involves apportioning the cost of each apportioning the cost of each service cost center to production cost centers only. Okay, so when you're talking of direct method of reapportionment, we are saying that the cost of the service cost centers are only being apportioned to production cost centers and not among themselves, not to the service cost centers as well. Okay, so to know this, let us just go through the example. We have got Lucy core, okay, Lucy core, and I've indicated in the slide that you just have to make use of the tutor video to go through this process so that you won't have difficulty in understanding the concepts. All right. There is Lucy core, okay, which include the following overhead costs. There's production cost centers as usual, those tables, okay, and then allocated costs, apportioned costs. All right. What we do here is you just have to attack questions systematically. You attack them systematically. Do not panic like, what is this? I've never seen it before, or the ACCA tutor did not tell me. So maybe there's been some fraud. Can somebody investigate fraud? No, just breathe. Okay, in the exam, breathe. Do not panic. Okay, do not panic. This is your exam. All right, this is your exam, and you have to pass it. I want you to pass. Hey, can somebody say, I want to pass? Yeah, that's how we do it. That's how we are going to do it. All right. So you're given those figures, and like I said in one of the lectures, that the examiners, when it comes to costing, they are examining if you can play around with figures, if you can make sense out of those figures in front of you. Okay, that's the tricky bit of it. So production cost center P requisitioned material to the value of 12,000. Cost center Q requisitioned 8,000 of material, $8,000 of material. The maintenance cost center provided 500 hours of work for cost center P and 750 hours for cost center Q. Calculate the total production overhead cost of centers P and Q. So, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, the issue here is we are required to apportion. Okay, we are required to apportion these overheads, okay, or these costs to production cost centers. That's to these two production cost centers. Okay, because by definition, direct method of reapportionment is that we need to apportion or to reapportion the sales cost centers to production cost centers, because these guys, they do not their costs are not apportioned to their fellow sales cost centers. Okay, that's the direct method of reapportionment. So what you have to do is you have to discover, okay, what are the total costs for for sales cost center, for the stores sales cost center. The total cost were $2,000. That's 1,000 plus 1,000, 2,000, and then these 2,000 should be shared between the production cost center P and production cost center Q. Similarly, the 2,500 here, that is the total cost for the maintenance cost center. That's 2,500, 2,000 plus 500, 2,500 should also be shared. Needs to be shared between P and Q. This one also needs to be shared between P and Q. Are we together? Yeah, that's the trick here. That's the trick. All right. So how are we going to do that? Let us just come up with a table. Let us come up with a table. We have got the sales cost center. All right. Service. Don't worry. My writing sales cost center. It's just a table. Sometimes this pen. Okay. Then the basis of apportionment. What's the basis? What's the total? The total cost. Then cost center. These are production cost centers. There are two. We have got P. We have got cost center Q. From the question, yes, there's P and Q. And the sales cost centers, we have got cost center, stores, and maintenance. Okay, we've got the stores here. The stores, the basis of apportionment for stores according to what do you think is the basis of apportionment? Okay, what do we get from the stores? Usually from the stores, we don't get soft drinks to treat ourselves during breakfast or lunch. No, we don't get those things from the stores. All right. What do we get? We get raw materials, etc. So the examiner here is not going to say to tell you that hey, use the material costs from the stores as the basis for apportionment. It's not going to tell you that. You have to lead yourself to the right basis of apportionment. That's the purpose of learning. Okay. Remember, by the end of the day, you just have to show the examiner that you are clever. Tell them, hey man, I'm clever. I've studied. I've paid my money to the ACCA tutor. I'm now clever. I want to pass. Okay, I want to pass, and I have to pass come this April, this June, this September, this December, whatever month. I want to pass. All right. So this is what we are going to do. We're going to use materials requisitioned as our basis. So materials requisitioned, because from the stores we get raw materials for production. We don't get buns and cokes, refreshments, etc. We don't get those ones. We get materials requisitioned. Okay, and the total cost for this particular service cost center. Here, the trick part is after most students identify the basis correctly, but then fail to know which figure to apportion. They end up, getting confused, picking up 12,000. 12,000 is the amount, is the materials that have to be. This should create the base for apportionment. Okay, but what should be apportioned is the service, the cost of the service center, the total cost. This 2,000 should be shared to production, not these ones. Am I talking to somebody? Can somebody say, hey man? Don't be confused. Don't be confused. Okay, we wanted to share the 2,000, 2,500 for maintenance. This 2,000 for stores cost sender. All right. So we take the 2,000, we slot it in. 2,000 come here, and 2,000 says, here I am. Say, use me whatever you want to use me for. Okay. Don't worry about this. Let us slot the other information we need. What we need again for maintenance. Well, it should also be shared. Okay, it should also be shared. Okay, we have got for maintenance. What do we have to say? The maintenance cost center provided 500 hours of work for the cost center P and 700 hours for cost center K. So you can see that the amount of hours worked should actually be our basis. Hours worked. It's not hard and fast that you say hours worked. Sometimes say hours provided. It's about playing around, but what is important is the examiner has to know major things or major what you are saying. The examiner has to understand. Sometimes you just say time worked, hours worked, hours spent on the job, something like that. Okay, as the basis. But you can see that as I have put total cost is in dollars, obviously you do not pick the figures for hours here. So for maintenance, it's not that tricky. Just have to go straight away to the maintenance cost center total of 2,500 and slot the figure in. Okay, we did that. Then And remember, we are worried with these guys. We are worried with these guys. We want to know the figure which how we are going to share the 2000 among between P and Q, and how we are going to share 2500 between P and Q. So let's do the workings. Okay, workings. The workings. Okay, there's no space there. Let us start with workings for the reapportionment. So let us start with the reapportionment of service cost center. Service. Hey, my spelling for service center. Is it one? Service center stores. Okay. Oh my God. Stores. The stores. How are we going to apportion? We said that the basis was for materials requisitioned. So total materials requisitioned. Total materials requisitioned. How much were they? Requisitioned. The examiner is talking about 12,000 and 8,000. So if we add 12,000 and 8,000, how much is that? 12,000, 8,000. It's going to give us something like 20 bucks, 20k. So apportionment to production. Production center, is it A? P. Okay. Production center P. Production center P. We are now going to say, hey man, because P took 12,000 of materials. P took 12,000 and Q took 8,000. Okay, so 12,000 over 20. 12,000 over 20. Multiply by how much? By 2,000, because store service center incurred 2,000 in total. Please do not be swayed or thrown overboard. So 12,000 over 20,000 multiplied by 2,000, we get 1,200. Then production center Q, that's 8,000 over 20,000 multiplied by 2,000. That's how much? 8,000 over 20,000 multiplied by 2,000. We get 800. Just to cross check yourself, you can see that if you add up 1,200 plus 800, you come back to 2,000. That's how you can check yourself out in the exam. We don't want people who just go in the exam and come out failures. We want people who can cross check themselves to see if they did the right thing. So let us slot in those figures in our table. We determine that this one is 1,200 and this one is 800. Okay, so the 2,000 here has been apportioned between production center P and production center Q. Let us now do the maintenance. You can pause the video here and do the maintenance alone to see if you can come up with the right figure for the maintenance. Alright, let's do it together. For the maintenance, we're not going to use these same figures. Okay, we're going to use, because the basis of apportionment is the hours worked. So I'm going to come here and rub this off. Okay, let us rub this off. Right, and obviously here we're going to rub these things off. In the exam on D-Day, please do not panic. Okay, do not panic. Right, let me just use Mr. Blue. Okay, so saves cost center. This time we are talking of some other cost center. What's the name of this cost center? The cost center we are talking about this time is maintenance. Saves center maintenance. Okay, so we say that hours worked, that's our basis. Okay, and total hours worked, and we are told that P used how much? P used okay, maintenance cost center used 500 of work for the cost center P, and 700 hours for cost center Q, so 500 and 750. This gives us 1250. 1250. So the apportionment goes like this: 500 over 1250 multiplied by how much was the total? The total was 2500, but we have already written it here so that we won't be confused with exam pressure. So 2500, we have to share the 2500 between the two cost centers. And then we've got 750 over 1250 multiplied by 2500. You use your calculator, because in the exam we don't have the whole day to verify. 1250, okay, multiplied by 2500, get 1000. 1 kilo, 1000. Then we get 1700. But in the exam you can see that if we have got 1000 here, obviously the balance is 1500, but you can cross check. Like I said, learn to cross check yourself to see if you are on the right path. Divided by 1250 multiplied by 2500, get 1500. Boom, get it. You take these figures to the table: 1000 and 1500, 1000 and 1500. Okay, are we together? All right, so if we add these things, we get, if you add these figures, we get here 4500, here that's 2200 and 2300. Okay, then the previously allocated and apportioned figures. Okay, these ones we can get them straight away from the question. Okay, we get them straight away from the question. You've got 8000 for production P, and for production Q 5000, and so forth. Okay, 2000 and so forth. All right, we just have to use these figures so that we are not going to be confused. Okay, we mustn't be confused with anything here. All right, so the previously allocated and apportioned, the totals, these two totals, that's the totals which we want. Okay, these ones, and the total here is 8,000 plus 5,000, we get 13,000. All right, in total, because we want the total here, so we have got 18,000. Okay, which is made up of 8,000 and 5,000. So can as well add them up. Okay, we can as well add them up. So here that's 005 17,500. Here we got 002 10,200 10,200. Here we got 003 7. Okay, so you can also as well cross-check yourself to determine if 10,200 plus 7,300 gives you 17,500. If they do, then you are correct. You are on the right path. You are on the right path. So if you have done this, then I can see that I can assure you that you have passed. Okay, that you have passed. Okay, so this is these ones are the okay, these ones are now total overheads. These ones. Okay. There was a line here, if you still remember. I rubbed it off. Okay. My mistake. Alright, so this is where we have gone so far, and we have answered our question. The question was calculate the total production overhead cost of cost centers P and Q. So these are the total overhead costs which we have just calculated. I hope you have not been confused. Okay, that's our solution, and we can move on to the next. And in our next segment, we'll be touching on the step down approach. Please just hang on. Okay, just hang on. Just hang on as we take you through the next segment. Thank you.